and foremost, I do agree that it was a bad decision not only to allow that, but to post it on the internet with the name of the school prominently displayed on your shirt. Even from a security standpoint, I feel that most administrations would have a problem with that. Generally, I don't like that teachers have normalized using their students for content because that often makes them a part of discourse that they did not sign up for and that they do not understand. From what I've seen, most of the people who have issues with that are not calling that man a predator. They're simply saying that it's inappropriate and unprofessional. Something can be inappropriate without being sexual or even without intention, especially when it involves a power dynamic like teacher to student. Y'all are also being disingenuous with the "see, this is why there are no black male educators, y'all tear them down." He brought that video to the internet for people to discuss. And just because some people think he crossed the boundary does not mean they don't respect the contributions of black male educators. Now, I do see the other side as well, and y'all know that's big for me because I can be an absolutist. Teachers are often called beyond the limits of their professional duties to the point where they become village members for their students. I've seen teachers purchase food, clothes, and even medical supplies for less fortunate students. Was that professional? Technically not, but they were simply trying to be a safe space for students who do not have one at home. But as a former student, I've also bared witness to how those friendships between teachers and students can get blurred very quickly. Mind you, he referred to those kids as his best friends in that video. I've seen how well-intentioned teachers ended up in trouble because they crossed boundaries with students they formed bonds with by allowing them to break certain rules, talking to them about their personal lives. This is especially true for younger teachers who can easily be mistaken as peers. This is across all genders because I remember how those basketball players used to talk about that one friendly female teacher whose classroom they hung around in after school. And as I always say, multiple things can be true at one time. While this is a lesson for him, I actually hope he doesn't lose his job. I've seen parents of those students testifying to how good he is with their children in helping them learn and grow, and I don't want those babies to lose that. But I do think that additional caution should be taken when interacting with students for the protection of both teacher and student, and that especially goes for posting the interactions on the internet. While this is a lesson for him, I actually hope he doesn't lose his job. I have to come back and revise this statement because he actually did get fired and he 1000% brought it on himself. I truly don't give a fuck, shit, or damn who disagrees. His first instinct after being terminated was to hop on live. Mind you, social media is what got him into this. He hopped his ass on live and started reading either text or messages from these kids saying, "Hey, bestie," and talking about how much they love and miss him. And this is being spent as though it's the public's fault that he got fired. And I want y'all to know, I never want to hear you motherfuckers use the word accountability ever again. Because even if the hair thing didn't bother you, y'all really can't look at the full scope of this situation and identify any way that he went wrong. I can't even be friends with my therapist on social media because of ethics, but y'all think that it's okay to not only allow students to touch you unnecessarily because you need a service done, but to broadcast their faces and the name of their school on social media. And we now know that he also has means to privately contact these students now that he's no longer working there. Female teachers do it all the time, and they're walking a very fine line too. I remember that cheerleading coach who made content very similar to what y'all are defending. Nobody would have thought that she was a predator, but she was one. If anything, y'all should be glad that people are doing too much when it comes to children, because too many of y'all do the very least. Speaking of double standards, and I hate to take it here, but actually I'm lying. I don't mind taking it here at all. Let that have been a teacher with the aesthetic of Saucy Santana letting little boys play in his head. The very same people who see nothing wrong with this would want him burned at the stake like Salem. I'm a fucking feminist. I challenge double standards based on gender all the time, and y'all never around to agree with a bitch until y'all want to defend shit like this. Yes, we need more black male educators, and I so value the ones that we have, but not to the point that we can't objectively criticize them when they're making a mistake. Nobody got that man fired but him.
And you know what? I'll say another thing that people are going to be mad at me for. Y'all got this twisted too. The stupidest shit I see on my For You page almost on a daily basis is rude interactions with celebrities. I just watched a video of somebody saying they met Renee Rapp at Coachella, but they didn't even meet Renee Rapp. They met Regina George. And she was so rude and so mean. I was like, okay, tea, I want to hear. I'm not even kidding. I watched the video 3 times over because I was mad confused. The story, and I'm not playing, I went up to Renee Rapp in a VIP section at Coachella while she was sitting at a bar with her friends. I said, "Excuse me, I'm sorry to bother you. My friend is a really big fan of your music. Can I get a photo with you?" Renee Rapp said, "Actually, nah. I'm about to head out, but it was really nice to meet you." You expecting more? I was too. Replayed that video 3 times. I was like, am I missing something? Did she spit on them? Like, you are not owed a photo with anybody. And I'll say that again. You're not at a photo with anybody. Nobody owes you a photo. You walked up to that woman at Coachella. She wasn't working. She wasn't clocked in. She was there for fun. She was there for leisure like you were. If you see a celebrity and you like a celebrity and you want to walk up to them and ask them for a photo, fucking do it. Who cares? It is a cool experience to see somebody that you like. I'm all for shooting your shot, but so help me God, walk up to them with the expectation that they may say no and that's so fucking okay. Don't get me wrong. It would be cool if she took a photo with you. It'd be real cool. She didn't. And that's okay. And that's where the story ends. You literally set up that story as though you went to her concert, paid for the VIP package with a meet and greet, went to the meet and greet, asked for a photo at the meet and greet where you were supposed to get a photo, and she punched you in the neck and pushed you to the ground and didn't take a photo with you. Babe, that's not, you were at Coachella for fun. She was at Coachella for fun. She doesn't owe you a photo. Even if you had walked up to her and said, can I get a photo? And she said no. And that's it. That's fucking fine too. And there's people in the comments being like, oh my God, but when you meet a celebrity, it's like a once in a lifetime thing and you want it to go well. Totally get that. I couldn't understand that more. Absolutely you want it to go well. That didn't go bad. That situation wasn't bad. You walked up and asked for a photo. She politely declined and told you it was nice to meet you. That's not horrible. No, but her and her 5 friends stared me down. No, baby, probably not. That probably didn't happen. I'm not gaslighting you, but that's just tale as old as time. You walked up to her totally fine with the wrongful expectation that she was going to take a photo with you or that she has to take a photo with you. She said no. You got nervous. She was with a group of people. You were intimidated by her because she's a celebrity and it felt like she was staring at you when she was probably just looking at you. But celebrities need to understand that we make them famous. Yeah, babe. And in turn, guess what they owe you? Guess what artists are supposed to do for you? Make art. They make art. That's their job. They make art. And that's their payment to you. And then you choose to consume the art. And that's where the exchange ends. They make art, you consume the art. It's your choice, you don't have to. And I've seen so many photos of Renee Rapp with fans at Coachella. She probably just wasn't feeling it. Maybe she felt insecure. Maybe she was with the group of people and didn't want to disturb them. Maybe she just didn't fucking wanna. And that's okay. That's fine.
I finished part 1 of Bridgerton season 3, okay? And honestly, I'm fighting every single molecule, every atom in my body, if you will, to not get in my car, go to the airport, book a flight at the airport, because I don't even have time to do it right now. I'm going to get to the airport, I'm going to book the flight, go to Netflix headquarters in Los Angeles, California, and have a very stern talking to the people who decided that they were going to split this up into 2 parts. Because this ending simply will not do. It simply will not do. The way that they left us hanging, the last scene of that.
I will literally never understand why Black people have this perspective. Like, oh, well, I'm Black and people don't care, so I'm not going to care about others. Like, I don't get it. While I completely understand the exhaustion that comes with being Black and the endless dehumanization and brutalization of our bodies in like every single culture, because every single culture has been touched with white supremacy and anti-Blackness, I will never understand this particular mindset. And while I feel this way in general, I really don't get it when it comes to talking about Palestine, because Palestinians have historically always stood by us in Black liberation movements and vice versa. It's why Angela Davis, our Angela Davis, has rode with the Palestinians for decades. During the protests in 2020, Palestinians were telling us how to deal with tear gas and how to deal with police officers and how to protest. They were the ones putting up signs and painting murals on the other side of the world. They have had our backs the whole time. Is there anti-Blackness in the community? Absolutely, because it is literally everywhere in the world. Doesn't mean that as a people we shouldn't care about them? No. But beyond that, allyship and humanity and decency are not transactional. I don't know why we feel like we should be exempt from that, but we're not. And yes, we need to talk more about what's going on in Sudan and Congo, and even here in the United States with all of the crises constantly facing Black folk, especially Black women. And I say this as a Black mother about to go like into labor in the next couple of months. So I get it. But our allyship and our care for others cannot be transactional. And I don't know why we have this like isolationist mindset all the time, this like hyper individualism. Oh, well, they don't care about me, so I don't care about them. I don't get it. I don't think I have the capacity to get it. Why? When talking about the torture camps that are currently holding Palestinians in, people keep saying, oh, did we learn nothing from history? And the answer is yes. The oppressor keeps learning better tactics to do this again. While this is horrific to hear about, and I mean truly horrendous, it is not new. Because before there was this, there was the Holocaust. And before the Holocaust, the learned some of their strategies from U.S. enslavement. And this is a horrifically oversimplified telling of history. It didn't just go U.S. enslavement, Holocaust, Palestine. There were internment camps for Japanese people and Japanese Americans in the United States between like 1917 and 1920-ish. There are currently camps of this magnitude or greater in China right now holding on to the Uyghur people. The only thing that gets learned as history repeats itself over and over and over is that the oppressor gets better at oppressing. However, the tides are shifting because we live in an age of information now where people get to be in the know. Back in the day, this wasn't just super common knowledge for everybody. We didn't all know how graphic and horrific these things are. We know that now. And the question is, with this knowledge now, what are we going to do about it? So today's Mother's Day, and I really wanted to make it special for my mom and my granny because it's kind of like the last one before our roles fundamentally, tangibly change for good. And so I was pitter-pattering around all day trying to do my best. I couldn't stop thinking about the mom in Congo who was unalived by the bombings last week, and her son who was strapped to her back in his baby carrier screaming for her. And somewhere between thinking about her and him and all of the children who have been orphaned in Congo as they've had their parents stolen from them and baking apple pie for my mom, I thought about all the other moms in Palestine who have buried their children, held their body parts in their hands, screamed for them. I thought about the mom who sobbed as she talked about how she took well over 100 IVF shots just to have this baby. And I thought of her. And sometime after dinner, I was thinking about all of the moms and daughters in Sudan who travel in packs with other moms and daughters as an attempt to keep each other safe so that they're not SA'd and violated and kidnapped in the face of a war that they have no business being a part of. And a little while ago, I was playing tag with my baby because sometimes I'll click a pin on my stomach and she'll kick it back. And I was thinking about all of the love that I received today and all the peace I'm experiencing, and what a privilege that is. There are mothers worried, sick, trying to figure out how they're going to keep their babies safe and alive and fed in the wake of endless man-made famine. There are mothers out there who are permanently separated from their babies and their children are wondering what they're going to do now. There are mothers in the millions spending today carrying a grief that I pray I never know. So once we're done loving our moms and matriarchs and wishing them a happy Mother's Day, make sure you're doing what you can to support these women everywhere. Because to be able to celebrate a happy Mother's Day is a privilege. Congo is not an afterthought, and the crisis of these people should not be used as a gotcha moment or way to virtue signal that you're better than someone. Since violence began in 1996 in the DRC over minerals and resources, 6 million people have been unalived, making it the deadliest conflict since World War II. Violence is active and ongoing, with reports from the last year stating that children as young as 4 years old are working in the mines to get these raw materials like cobalt and tin. There are 7 million people internally displaced. Congo is known as the grape capital of the world, with 48 grapes taking place every single hour. And within the last week and a half alone, there was another bombing that claimed the lives of 12 people. Crisis in Congo is important, and people are correct. It is not getting nearly as much attention as the crisis going on in Palestine right now. However, it is not our job to stop talking about Palestine to focus on Congo. It is our job to talk about both. And within the last couple of weeks, I've seen a huge influx in comments saying, well, don't forget about Congo. I hope you talk about Congo with the same passion, blah, blah, blah. And it's virtue signaling. And I know this because 9 times out of 10, these comments come from people who do not make content about what's happening in Congo, who do not provide resources for people to learn more or to donate aid, who don't even leave repost on the content talking about Congo. As a person who does try and make content talking about what's happening in the DRC and in Sudan, and who watches my peers also make this content, and to see all of those videos get less and less traction, not because of suppression, but because of lack of engagement, those comments are infuriating. Because part of making sure that people are advocating for a free Congo is to spread information and awareness about what's happening on the ground in Congo, as opposed to just leaving comments. Well, don't forget about them. I hope you're talking about them. Are you engaging with that content? Are you making sure people know where to donate aid to? Are you making sure that people know just how horrific things are on the ground? Because if not, all you're doing is signaling that you care and that other people don't without doing the labor of caring. Congo is not an afterthought. There are millions of people in need of our help, whether it comes in the form of donations or amplifying Congolese voices or spreading information and education or boycotting and blocking and divesting from brands that continue to capitalize off of slave labor or stopping vaping or literally anything under the sun. Even reminding people to speak up about Congo is a good thing. But make sure along the way that you're also speaking up about what's going on in the DRC and that you're doing your part.
Or frankly, about history in many areas of the world, including in our own country.
What gets me is not that she's talking about one of the most educated generations in American history, saying that we know nothing about US history or global history. It's not that she's talking about a generation that has unprecedented access to information and can learn so many things at the drop of a hat. It's not even the fact that we are currently living in a political system that devalues education. And so, yeah, it actually wouldn't be that much of a shocker if people didn't know, their US history or their world history, despite the fact that we have so much evidence to the contrary right now for people of voting age. No, what gets me is the fact that these same people are going to spin the block in, I don't know, a month, two, and start begging the same demographic of people that they just told were too stupid to know what's going on out there in the world, even though they can see it with their own eyes. They're going to come back and say, hey, you should vote for us. We care about you. We value your voice. Girl, please get online, tell us how uneducated and naive we are and how we can't form our own opinions and yada, 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 and then come beg for our vote during an election year in like 5 months. Please.
I just saw this video of this girl and she was basically saying that she hates seeing ugly people in TV shows. And she was basically saying that she would rather see someone on her screen that is very conventionally attractive but cannot act than vice versa. Guys, when I opened up the comments, I was expecting more people to be booing her because I was booing her in my head. Because guys, what a shallow take. Like genuinely, if you just want to see hot people, open up a magazine. Like why is that your only reason to consume media? To see cute people? Like Vogue is still in publication. But guys, anyway, and instead the comments are filled with people giving examples of actresses, keyword actresses in this sentence, that they thought weren't like attractive enough to play their characters. And a common pattern I saw in like all the people that were mentioned, besides the fact that they were all women, no men in sight, was that they were all non-white. Like some of the comments I saw were like, oh, the girl from One Day, oh, Kate from Bridgerton. You've lost your whole mind. Like you've made a video that now has given a platform for people to just like be racist. And I know someone's gonna say, it's not racist, like it's just preference, blah, blah, blah. Do your preferences exist in a vacuum? They do not. Like don't play slow and try to minimize it. Like the fact that most of the actresses that were being mentioned are just non-white women that don't fit your Eurocentric beauty standards. And you think as a result, they don't deserve their roles that they worked hard for? There are racist undertones there. They're not even undertones at that point. They are there. Anyways, guys, also, my other problem with that is you do not expect this level of beauty from men because, guys, I didn't see one man in that comment section. Guys, I'm not going to sit here and act like I don't like seeing attractive people on my screen. Like, obviously, if I'm watching, like, a romance movie and I had an option of, like, Damson Idris versus, I don't know, I don't want anyone to catch a stray, but, like, not Damson Idris, I'm going to pick Damson Idris. But, like, that wouldn't determine whether I'm going to watch the movie or not. And I'm not saying male actors should be held to some unrealistic beauty standard as well, okay? I'm just saying they should be leveled. Because, guys, you'll be watching a movie and it's like the most gorgeous women alive, yeah? And then it's like Adam Sandler. And I'm not even trying to be rude. Like, Adam Sandler is not ugly at all, okay? But he just looks like a normal person. Me, personally, I love seeing average-looking people in TV shows and movies. And I don't even mean that in a backhanded way, okay? It's just the truth. The average person is average. And that's not a bad thing, especially if it's a romance movie, because then it goes against the idea that we're fed that, like, love is only attainable for gorgeous people or that, like, they're more deserving of love, you know? And I don't know why this pairing of, like, gorgeous women and then, like, average man is so common in these movies and TV shows. Maybe it reflects the real world, I guess. But also, it could be that there's just, like, more male directors, which there are, and they're, like, I don't know, appealing to male audiences because they want to see, like, a gorgeous woman. Like, guys, like, if they saw, like, the other way around, they would get mad, which they do. Okay, guys, I've been talking for 9 minutes. I feel like we strayed away from the original point. I'm going to cut some stuff out. But basically, stop being so shallow with your viewing of media. It's actually sad to watch. Okay, guys, sorry, I'm so sorry to keep talking. But this also reminds me of, should I make another video? Okay, this reminds me of like Love Island. Guys, you know when people always complain about people in Love Island? Like they'll be like, oh, she's so mid, oh, blah, blah, blah. But then they'll also be saying like, oh, we need normal people back on Love Island. Like we need normal looking people. Like why is everyone so like unrealistically beautiful? Like, which one is it? Anyways, that's a topic for another.
So this past week, the BDS released a statement that had a section that was labeled Defend Arm Resistance versus Advocate for Arm Resistance. And since then, it has now been completely deleted from the entire statement after backlash from folks and even after the PFLP was just like, nah. But I found this section to be honestly pretty ill-conceived, pretty misguided, considering that there are so many Westerners, in particular, folks in the U.S. who view the BDS as God and what they say as scripture, which is very dangerous and honestly showing a lack of discernment by folks. Nonetheless, this section was trying to say that if you advocate for armed resistance, it's going to be viewed as evidence of incitement and violence and hurtful to the movement, as if right now we're not watching folks in the U.S. try to get the phrase from the river to the sea to be criminalized. This idea that liberals have that we must follow these Western colonial rules of engagement, aka respectability politics, is not liberating and will not liberate anyone. In what world would conforming to your oppressors, conforming to what they want you to do, free you? People should be more careful when trying to immediately uplift statements from liberal organizations, because oftentimes these statements really show that they are not existing in the same shared reality as us. They exist in a fantasy realm where the oppressor has a conscience and follows the rules they themselves lay out, which does not exist in our reality. The idea that we need to appeal to our oppressor's conscience is a fantasy. Our oppressor has no conscience. Not only that, our oppressor does not follow the rules they lay out. They simply change them. They move the goalposts. Their rules are arbitrary. Quick example, thinking about Rosa Parks. She sat in the black section. What happened? The bus driver move the white sign. That is how easy it is for them to change the rules. Yeah, Rosa Parks bus driver simply just moved the colored sign further back. In the United States, we are purposely taught a whitewashed version of history, and I think folks are either taught that Rosa Parks sat in the white section or sat in the front of the bus. Not at all. Rosa Parks was actually seated either the middle or like almost further back in the bus, because she was in the designated colored section. Like Rosa Parks was seated in the front row of the colored section. And what happened was, is as white folks got on the bus, the white section filled up, no more seats for white people. So the bus driver either asked people to move first or move the colored sign first. Nonetheless, after the colored sign was moved further back to give more space to white people, Rosa Parks did not move her seat, and then the bus driver called the cops on her. And I think it really highlights the way that white supremacy, the system, it just molds, moves to whatever fits the person in power who's, wielding that power on enforcing some kind of authority over people. But the fact that a lot of people don't know that the bus driver simply moved the sign is really whitewashing history, because it does a lot to paint Rosa Parks as being, immediately defiant, which nothing wrong with being immediately defiant. Like nothing wrong with disobeying unjust laws. We should be doing that. But not having the context of how the bus driver simply just moved the goalpost by moving the colored sign further back, it allows white supremacy to obscure. It allows folks to not see the full scope of how white supremacy will wield its power, will change the rules, change the laws, change, the power that is being dominated on folks to get whatever they want. Like, it's really nothing but of trying to distort context if people don't actually see the severity of the way the goalpost moves and the way white supremacy changes and blows with the wind.
Just a reminder that in theory, different politics are just supposed to be different policies, not different morals, not different ethics, right? The disagreement is supposed to be about which policies should we put in place to solve homelessness, not whether or not we should be solving homelessness. The argument was supposed to be, how should we go about this? Not should we even go about this? It's because we're not discussing politics anymore. We're discussing ethics. We're discussing morality. Like, in no universe should the argument of, no, we should just let the homeless remain homeless, be an argument. Because even if we remove all morals, all ethics, all empathy, all humanity from this conversation, the common sense answer is obviously to put in policies that would solve homelessness. Because even if you're not thinking about it from the perspective of the person who is literally out on the street, you should be thinking about it from your taxpayer standpoint. And why would you as a taxpayer want your taxes funding a city that is so clearly failing? And not just failing that person, but clearly failing you too. Like, there was a news segment that went viral a few years ago because the people of Seattle were literally picking up human shit off of their lawn. And it was because they had large unhoused populations, but they closed down all public bathrooms and took away all restrooms at night because they didn't want unhoused people using them. So again, humanity aside, why is that fair for you as a taxpayer to be putting up with? Why are you the one that's dealing with the ramifications of your government failing you? So many people care more about making sure somebody else loses than trying to win themselves. We have lost the plot. That is why conversations are so volatile now, because we are no longer discussing politics, because we're not discussing policy. We've been discussing human rights.
Important announcement. Happy Pollen Day to all who celebrate. Happy Penelope Featherington Day. Happy Cantony Day. Happy Anthony Bridgerton Day. Happy Benedict Bridgerton Day. I'm so excited this has finally happened so that I can feel something, and I actually think it was very obviously revealed who is going to be focused on in season 4. But first I want to share something really exciting. Miriam and her family have reached 50K towards their goal since the last time I posted about them a couple days ago, which is wonderful to see. And if you could maybe just check that out, it's the top spot on my Linktree on my page. It's very urgent. Thank you so much. And also, actually, I have not watched yet, but I'm so excited to do so. And even without that, I'm pretty sure season 4 is going to be Benedict's season. I'm putting in my vote now. I'm like almost certain that it's going to be for Benedict. And I'm so excited because, you know, that's my man, but I'm massively excited for Penelope and Colin too. If you have seen it, what are your thoughts? And just checking in to say, of course, I am not over that silly summer series. I will never be over. You don't have to worry about that with me. I am too far gone and have been for a very long time. Of course, I saw the announcements and everything, and we knew it was going to be summer 2025, and this is a really cute picture. I just have to say that Jenny posted how cute it is. You know, this is my man. You know, this is my OTP. If I ever say they're not, and I say that I'm over it, just know that I don't mean it, and I'll be back in 2 to 5 business hours. That's just how I am, so you don't have to worry about that. I'm stuck here. Also, you guys don't know this, but I actually have a Wicked collection that rivals my Twilight collection. Like, it's not quite, but you wouldn't even guess how many times I've seen Wicked over the years. I was not that excited about this movie at first until I saw the trailer, and now I'm really excited about it. So there's that too. I have something to say about the silly summer series. My videos, a few of them have been like recirculating lately. I think because people are talking about it again, because there's been like season 3 teasers and stuff. I mean, not really teasers, don't get excited, but they post that, you know, the whole thing. It's not coming until summer 2025, which we knew. And I was thinking about, since like I was getting comments of like just making a video basically just saying like where I stand so that people know. Obviously I'm Team Conrad. That is sarcasm. I hope nobody believed that. If you know me at all, you should know where I stand. But I was gonna just make a video like that. But what I wanted to say before I could make that video, because I just got annoyed, is one of the things that annoys me the most, like maybe even more, or not more, but like almost just as much as the like Jeremiah cheated thing, because like he literally did not, and Belly is not God Almighty, and that's not what cheating is. But beyond that, and I don't know if this is gonna sound like petty or heartless or whatever, but I don't think I'm wrong. I hate when specifically a Bonrad, a Conrad enthusiast, has the audacity to talk about how they want everybody to like be together at the end of the series, and they want like Jeremiah to be happily watching on with the Bonrad wedding, or like hanging out with them at the summer house. Or when a Bonrad in general talks about what they think Jeremiah's ending should be. How about no? How about you keep my man's name out of your mouth? Because no, it's actually so condescending and annoying when they talk about, oh, well, like Jeremiah can find somebody else, and I hope that like he finds somebody else, and then he's like happy with Belly and Conrad. He's not going to be happy with Belly and Conrad, and even if, and I think they probably will, they do try to shove that down our throats in the last episode, I know that's not true. Before anybody brings up the books, you must be new here. Believe me, I have read the books, and I do not believe Jeremiah was happy with the Bonrad wedding at the end. Believe me, I do not think that. That is just ridiculous, and I understand that people want the brothers to repair their relationship, and I get that. Like, I understand that that's nice in theory, but I actually am of the opinion that Jeremiah should protect his peace and never speak to these people again, because they do not respect him, and that is actually so heinous. And Bonrad's having the audacity to be like, oh, I want them all together, as if they're being like altruistic or something. Like, please shut up. I understand like Team Jeremiah people saying that occasionally just because they think it's like a nice idea of him like being with these people, but I disagree, and I don't want to hear it from a Bonrad. Actually, I think you should get away from them. Actually, I have no interest
interest in seeing Jeremiah shoved with some rando love interest to tie Bonrad up with a bow and make it look clean and cute, because it's not. Actually, I think he should get away from them, and I have no interest in seeing him hang out with Bonrad at the beach house years later, even though I do think that's probably what they're going to try to show us. And I'm just not here for it unless, like, we do get the implied affair, which, you know I'm always here for that. But yeah, Bonrad's talking about that just, like, deeply annoys me so much for some reason. Like, why are you speaking on this? Stick to Infinity and the Constellation. Polar Bear, please. All that being said, this really is my OTP, and I love them so much. And even though I might say stuff and it might be true, it's always gonna be them for me. And she really does love him so much. It's complicated.
The Strangers Chapter 1 is bad. It's definitely unquestionably bad. It's for sure in the running for worst movie of the year. The important question is it so bad it's good? Now, I absolutely love horror. The original Strangers scared the absolute fuck out of me. It's one of the first movies that, like, really shook me to my core. And as much as I love the genre, I think we all know that, like, what pays the bills, what keeps the lights on for this genre in particular is, like, shitty franchise sequels that have gruesome kills and broad appeal. There's a reason why the Saw franchise has, like, 15 installments, and it's not because the studio heads recognize that the first one was, like, conceptually very unique and creative, you know? So is The Strangers Chapter 1 so bad it's good? No, it's not. Unfortunately, no, it's just bad. It's really bad, and it's actually the worst thing a horror movie can be, which is boring. This movie boldly asks, what if we made another Strangers movie, but this time we didn't put any of the stuff that made the first one good into it? What if we made a movie that was so bland and uninteresting, about characters so stupid, without even a hint of a personality or motivation or backstory, and we just sort of ran out the clock so that the audience kind of gets impatient waiting for them to die? And they were so confident in this concept, by the way, that there are 2 more movies planned in a planned trilogy. I will be absolutely shocked if both of them end up getting made. You can honestly just tell from the poster design how much they missed the point of what made the original Strangers scary and interesting. Like, having the titular strangers in the foreground and having Madeline Petch's character here just standing here without pants on is just so obvious that, like, they're giving away the gag. Like, even the way this movie starts, the original Strangers is interesting because we come upon this couple with absolutely no context. There is no hint that it's even a horror movie. It seems like a domestic drama. They're going to a family home where they feel safe, and then something like this happens even though it shouldn't. They decide to set this movie up like The Hills Have Eyes or the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where this couple, who is just like the most boring Instagram influencer couple you can possibly imagine, they're like, no, I love you more. No, you're more handsome. There's nothing interesting about their dynamic at all. And they come upon this town and everybody's creepy and their car breaks down and they're stranded and they're like, that's like a shady character. They have no connection to anyone in the story. They try to mirror the plot points of the original Strangers, but there's no weight or stakes or anything interesting that happens. Mainly, they build tension here, not by doing any kills or having any gore. I think it's rated PG-13, but by cutting back and forth like it's the fucking Good, the Bad, and the Ugly between her looking scared and one of these guys just standing somewhere with a mask on. There's one sequence that I swear to God was 3 minutes long, where they cut back at least 5 times to each of them. And it's like, what the fuck are we doing? Are we running out of clock? I just think it should be okay to expect more. It doesn't have to be fucking Shakespeare or Ari Aster. It doesn't have to be elevated. It can be so bad it's good, but, like, give me something that's actually so bad it's good. Like 2005 House of Wax, like the entirety of the Final Destination franchise. Ultimately, what I got out of this movie was a pretty effective exercise in patience, because I resisted taking out my phone to see how much time was left the entire time. So anyway, this whole thing makes me mad all over again on behalf of The First Omen, an actually incredible horror legacy sequel prequel thing, and one of my favorite horror movies in years. It's coming to Hulu soon, so watch this instead. This is so much. People have got to stop defending their favorite movies by saying it's not bad, it's camp. The rise in popularity of camp as a concept has meant that it's gotten really diluted and misunderstood from its original meaning, and words and concepts, like, change their meaning all the time. Like, humanity is constantly changing and evolving, and the way we understand things and interact with things is different. But this modern iteration of camp that I see used most frequently is people, when something they like is called bad, they say, no, it's not bad, it's just camp. And I think there has to be an important distinction between things being bad and things being camp. And something being bad or unpopular doesn't necessarily make it camp. If you haven't read Susan Sontag's essay Notes on Camp that she wrote in 1964, she tries to like articulate like the ineffable, hard to explain qualities of like what makes camp so appealing to people who love it. It's a quick read. It's 14 pages. It's an essay, but it's not like a book or anything. It's easy to check out. But let's just do the Cliff Notes version here, okay? So essentially, like the purest form of camp is called naive camp, and that is camp that it doesn't know that it's camp. Camp that comes from genuine sincerity, comes from people who have real passion to make something, but they fail in creating what they're intending to fail, but they succeed in creating something different, which is camp. I think a really important note that she says here is when something is just bad rather than camp, it's often because it is too mediocre in its ambition. The artist hasn't attempted to do anything really outlandish. It's too much. It's too fantastic. It's not to be believed. Are standard phrases of camp enthusiasm. Now, another thing I really want to make clear is I think it's totally okay to like movies that aren't critically acclaimed. I think that it is totally okay to like what you like, and experiencing a movie is all about the experience, right? The theater that I saw The Strangers Chapter 1 in was laughing a lot. One of the main reasons we started laughing early is because there was one guy in the theater that started shrieking really loudly anytime anything remotely like scary happened, and it was like a lot of laughing at the absurdity of that and laughing at the absurdity of the movie together. It was a very good vibe, right? So that you can have a positive experience in a place like that while also your takeaway being that this movie is not good. But I think an important thing to really remember about camp is that it's an aspect of counterculture. It's like a form of protest essentially against like populism and like standards of society of like what we all agree is like good. And so in a way, I can understand how you might want to classify The Strangers Chapter 1 as camp because it definitively is unpopular. That's true. But my big thing is I think camp is all about joy and like appreciating the love and passion that goes into even the most mundane things and making the mundane extraordinary and making the frivolous like feel important. I think that like camp is weird and hard to classify because it does mean different things to different people, but I think it's incredibly cynical to label a cheap cash grab made with the intention of squeezing money out of a franchise and not having any artistic integrity at all for the purpose of capitalism exclusively. I think that I think that's lame. I don't think that that's fun and whimsical and like a cool expression of like human sincerity that's just missed the mark. I think that's intentionally manipulating audiences for financial gain to distract them from wealth inequality instead of making fun of the frivolity of high society, you know? So like, I understand that as someone who makes a living by criticizing art, that seems to fly in the face of camp, right? Because someone who is so self-serious that takes every movie seriously and wants to analyze every movie couldn't possibly understand the fun and frivolity of camp, right? Because those two things should be antithetical. But I think camp is a very true and earnest art form. I think that, you know, when Susan Sontag wrote her essay, camp was more about a classification after the fact of a piece of art, and society has really embraced camp as like a stylistic enthusiasm in making your art. You can like conscious camp is like a very big thing in modern culture. Like drag is a great example of this. Like it's very intentionally so, but I don't think that makes it any less camp. And I think that I think we have to be wary of when we're being exploited. And I think that this is exactly an example of that. I think this is exactly an example of exploitation. And it's fine to just want to watch a silly movie and find it amusing and whatever. But I think that when we start calling everything that's bad camp, like it's bad from an artistic standpoint, but it's also bad for society because we're letting them get away with it. Like, I just think that this movie is so cynical in all aspects of its production, and I think that that's just not camp. Like, yes, I appreciate that camp is trying to fight against the idea that there is such a thing as good taste, and that's why we appreciate the bad taste, but this is like one of the final notes of her essay is she says camp taste is above all a mode of enjoyment, of appreciation, not judgment. Camp is generous. It wants to enjoy. It only seems like malice, cynicism, or if it is cynicism, it's not ruthless, but it's sweet cynicism. Camp taste doesn't propose that it is in bad taste to be serious. It doesn't sneer at someone who succeeds in being seriously dramatic. What it does is to find success in certain passionate failures. Camp taste is a kind of love for human nature. It relishes rather than judges the little triumphs of awkward intensities of character. Camp taste identifies with what it's enjoying. People who share this sensibility are not laughing at the thing they label as camp, they're enjoying it. Camp is a tender feeling. And that's why I think some of the best camp is very self-aware, especially in movies. I think Cabin in the Woods is a great example of this, where if you love horror and you want to watch something that is over the top ridiculous, you can do so in a way that clearly has love and appreciation and artistic intent behind it. Like I do think that naive camp can be great, and I think that there are going to be a ton of people who enjoy laughing at Strangers Chapter 1, but I think it's, I don't know, that's a designation of camp that makes me very uncomfortable. I'm going to say something bold. I think the Kardashians are the reason people aren't going to the movies anymore. I think the Kardashians have been instrumental in destroying the public trust in Hollywood and what it stands for. In case you hadn't seen it yet, Variety just announced their newest lineup for their Actors on Actors series, an incredibly popular and prestigious interview series where actors at the top of their game interview each other, usually ahead of award season, with soon-to-be Oscar nominees. And Kim Kardashian is one of the actors that they have procured for this lineup. It's wild to see this announcement made so quickly after the Hollywood Bowl, the Lion King debacle, because it's so clearly another incident of the Kardashians just buying a spot somewhere where they don't deserve to be, where they have no business being. And I think buying fame goes a relatively long way in the internet era. You can buy yourself online followers, you can buy yourself, photo shoots and magazine spreads and spots on red carpets. But when you're actually taking a spot and you're expected to do more than just stand there and look pretty, it becomes very, very apparent who deserves to be there and who doesn't. And I think general audiences are really fucking tired of feeling like they've gotten scammed in a money-making scheme that isn't actually about any kind of artistic integrity or anything other than making money for a really fucking long time now. And there's been a long-standing discussion about why movie theaters are failing and why movies are struggling. And I think streaming obviously has played a huge role in that. So has the internet changing and the way people consume content changing. But I think the switch from art, film, and media into content has been a big topic of discussion over the past few years. And while I don't necessarily agree, because I think content has become a catch-all term that's more convenient for use than anything else, it does speak to the commodification of art in a big way. And I think the Kardashians have been a huge part of that. I think audiences are just so deeply untrusting. On this app, there's been an ongoing conversation about the downfall of celebrity culture and rising class consciousness and how that plays into the Hollywood economy. But I think general audiences are far less removed from that conversation than people would imagine. I think it's just genuinely hard for general audiences to tell a difference anymore when they see an advertisement for the new J-Lo movie on Netflix and the sequel movie coming out of WB. And admittedly, as a film lover, as someone who keeps up with this stuff, I think there's a huge difference between auteur visionary George Miller, finally doing the screenplay that he wrote 20 years ago before he even started making Mad Max and turning it into Furiosa, versus some Netflix schlock. But general audiences don't trust studios anymore to provide them with a quality product. And I think for that reason, they don't really care. They don't really care to investigate it. And when this conversation was happening around The Fall Guy, I didn't really care because I don't think The Fall Guy was that good. Hot take, I didn't really like The Fall Guy that much. I thought it was fine. I thought the movie was very, very flawed, and I thought it was advertised like a Netflix movie. So I wasn't surprised that people didn't show up in theaters. And I feel like people are more surprised about Mad Max and Furiosa, but it is a weird niche movie. And on top of that, it's coming off of, being marketed amongst a bunch of other sequel bullshit that audiences just don't really know anymore if they can trust that it's going to be anything good. And I think a lot of that is because of the contentification of media of all sorts due to people like the Kardashians rising to fame and being slotted into positions that they should never fucking be in, because the studios are prioritizing profit and those people get clicks. People talk about them. And of course, this is all part of a bigger conversation. There are a lot of other contributing factors. There are a ton of economic factors, societal factors, public health and safety factors. But I genuinely think that the Kardashians have kind of cemented themselves in their role in modern America as the French aristocracy, and people are getting tired of it. And I think because so many of these lines have become so blurred, a lot of people are associating the Kardashians and what they stand for with just Hollywood in general, which sucks because art is for the people. Art is for us. And right now it seems to be disinterest, but I don't know. I think it could turn on a dime into righteous anger, and kind of rightfully so.
I have been screaming. I have been jumping. I have been smacking myself with the sleeves of my shirt because they can get really long. And how am I supposed to live after this? How am I supposed to wait another month for the second half of this show to come out? How am I supposed to deal with the fact that TV show Colin is so much better than book Colin? How am I supposed to deal with the fact that Shonda Rhimes has historically written some of the worst men of all time ever? Derek Shepherd, Preston Burke, Owen Hunt, President Fitz, whatever his name is. And yet she takes the piece of trash men that Julia Quinn creates with all of her domestic violence dreams in mind, and she makes them stunning, perfect, wonderful. I mean, crappy sometimes. She really did just go out of her way to make Anthony the worst brother ever in the first season. But now we're on season 3. And it's just, it's so, and I'm, and it's, it, I'm gonna go read Emma. Also, remind me to talk about the Emma line tomorrow. Well, today's tomorrow. Whatever. I come from a long line of sailors and boat makers, and because I come from a long line of sailors and boat makers, when I see people who are in, like, old-timey, like, sailor costumes and outfits and, like, pirate fits, I'm like, ooh, hot. And, like, I think it's just a genetic thing in my brain that I try to normalize. But when I saw Colin Bridgerton walking off of that boat with the boots and with, like, the tailored, tapered, whatever jacket, looking for all the world like just a very fancy French pirate, I was had. And I was already had. Because Colin being too stupid to realize that he's in love with Penn has always been what I liked most about him. Because it was giving, no, Penn, you don't count. And I actually really like the concept of, like, you don't count when you're saying something. Like, I'm looking for... It's like when you tell... I don't know how to put this. I'm tired and I need to go to bed, but I just can't stop thinking about this show. If someone tells you not to tell a secret and then you go straight to tell your mom and then you tell your friend that you told your mom and they're like, well, your mom doesn't count. That's what I always felt when Colin was like basically just not seeing Penn as a romantic interest. It's not that he didn't see Penn as a girl. It's that he saw Penn as like a staple in his life. So he never considered the romantic interest because he always wanted to have her A, in his life, and B, he'd never really been considering the concept of romance anyways, except for with her cousin that time. So I've always been a really big fan of the you don't count version of things, but he fixed everything, and he looked good doing it, and I gotta go to bed. But there's so much more I could say. I want my men to look like pirates. And Colin Bridgerton, the entire third season, part 1, looked like a pirate. He looked like he just came off of a ship. And when he first got reintroduced to us, he had just come off a ship. He had like the stubble where he's like clean cut, but he's not, and he's all tan and he's all muscly, and he really has. I don't know if they did this on purpose or if this is just how he builds muscle, but he built muscle in a way where he looked like Errol Flynn. It was a very 1950s style, very like triangular shaped body, chest, whatever. And Errol Flynn played pirates. Errol Flynn played a lot of pirates. He played Captain Blood. Okay? He played Captain Blood, and Captain Blood is one of my favorite pirate movies ever for many reasons. But like this felt just looking at Colin Bridgerton like a 1950s style pirate film or ship film, and I'm so happy, and the jacket was so Literally, he heave-hoed. He heaved and he hoed, and I hoed. He heaved, I hoed. The books and Colin Bridgerton in the show are two completely different people, and you know what? I'm okay with that, because Colin Bridgerton in the books is the perfect epitome of Julia Quinn's like hard-on for men being angry around their significant others, because literally in Romancing Mr. Bridgerton, and wherever Penelope in Colin's book is called, Penelope makes Colin continuously livid, and that's how he knows he loves her. That's when he's most attracted to her, okay? When he's so mad at her that he wants to cause her physical harm is when he knows that she's the one, and it drives me nuts, okay? It drives me nuts, because the first time you read it, it is sexy, because, like, dark romance is a thing, and it's, like, romantic in a certain way, because he really does, like, you are hearing from his mind how much he, like, loves her, and is fascinated by her, and wants to be with her. But Colin Bridgerton, in the books, is also a whiny little bitch. Colin Bridgerton in the show may be very similar on paper, like literally technically on paper. He's still super charming, he's still super suave, he's still kind of a hoe. He doesn't really know what he's doing with his life, so he keeps like running away to foreign countries to just like be a person and be chill because he can, because he's a man. But at the same time, he sees Pen as a full person the entire time that they're friends. And people will try and tell me that I'm wrong, okay? People are gonna try and tell me I'm wrong, and maybe I am, but here's the thing. When you're an English major, however you discuss a thing is right, so long as you have proof and evidence to back it up. And I've said this before, and I will say it again, but Colin Bridgerton, never gets mad around Penelope. He's just really excited to be around her. He's not often getting forced by his mother to ask her to dance, as was in the books. Like, he was getting forced by his mom. His mom was like, go ask Pen to dance. No, he is like, oh, no, I'm gonna dance with Pen. The biggest difference between Colin and, I can't remember his name, but the Seth Rogen blonde lookalike, who Penelope is trying to bag this entire season. Navi, please don't do that right now. Seth Rogen, whatever his name, 2.0, Dabney? I can't remember his name. It doesn't matter. He has Cressida, like, act, 1 second. Penelope is walking by Cressida. Cressida decides that she's going to step on Penelope's dress, the first really beautiful, wonderful dress that Penelope has been able to wear. The dress rips. Seth Rogen lookalike is like, oh my god, what a horrible accident. That's so sad, that's so upsetting. I'm so sorry that happened to you, but like, you know, mistakes happen, accidents happen, because Cressida's like, oh my god, what an accident, what a tragedy, what an accident, I can't believe that I did that, whoops. And Seth Rogen is like, okay, I'll go get like some maid to like help you stitch it up, and Penelope runs away and is sad and is crying and cries all the way home, and it's upsetting and terrible, and Eloise is just frozen like, Pen, I'm so sorry, and it's like, Eloise. Anyways, then, if you look at season one of Bridgerton, here's the thing. Season 1 of Bridgerton, Cressida decides, after Penelope, like, makes a tiny little remark, to spill her drink all over Penelope, and she's trying to still, all the while, get Colin to dance with her. She's like, Colin, do you want to dance with me? And Colin's like, oh, actually, I'm gonna dance with my good friend, Penelope, because you just spilled something all over her, and I can't call you out on it because it's at a party and it wouldn't be appropriate, but I will dance with my delightful good friend, Penelope, whom I love platonically. I would never marry Penelope. Why would I marry, like, who I couldn't, I'm not a marrying guy. Like, I'm not gonna, what did I do? I'm not gonna get married, but like, Pen is there, and like, I know that Colin is an idiot, and I know that Colin, like, it just goes over his head that Penelope likes him, but I strongly believe that it's because he is in the Pen doesn't count category of Pen has been so close to him his entire life, and Pen has been so near him his entire life, and Pen is the only person who he doesn't see as a girl, and that's not a bad thing, because he's not seeing her as a girl as in someone who's like affectionate mama is going to try and get him to marry her daughter and like trick him into marriage. No, she's just a friend who he can talk to and who he can actually like really talk to, and I think it's important
important. So I really like show Colin Bridgerton. But Colin Bridgerton, it is still really hot and can get it, but I do want to kick him. And I never want to kick show Colin, okay? Ever. Except for when he was talking about Europe all the time. But besides that, love the guy. He's delightful. And I really do think he sees Penn as a full person. Even if he doesn't always realize that he sees Penn as a full person. Okay.
Treat the Bridgerton books like you would treat a Nicholas Sparks book. And I know that sounds heinous and horrific because, like, yeah, The Notebook is great, and yeah, you watch all the Nicholas Sparks movies that you can, but, like, name the last Nicholas Sparks book that you've read, but treat it that way, because the show is better than the books. Like, it's just not, it's so hard to explain, but, like, the books are so aggressive for no reason. Like, it's like there's this thought process in Julia Quinn's head where you can only show love through, like, brutality. I don't even want to say violence, I just want to say, like, brutality. And it's like when you read, like, you start with reading Nicholas Sparks books because it seems like it's a good idea, and then you realize that A Walk to Remember the Book and A Walk to Remember the Movie are two completely different concepts. Sure, they have the same plot. Sure, they have a lot of the same plot points, but boy, are they different books, you know? Or, like, how The Notebook is one of the most beautiful stories, but the book is, like, fine. And the movie is, like, really good. And then the musical is, like, a masterpiece, and I've really just been looking for an excuse to discuss The Notebook, the musical, recently. But, like, anyways, the point is, you don't need to read the Bridgerton books. They're completely different than the show for so many reasons. And I can't believe that I'm saying this, because I literally go out of my way to discuss all of Shonda Rhimes' men and how awful they are. But Shonda Rhimes fixed a lot of the Bridgerton men, which is crazy, because she wrote President Fitz.